The shuttle glided into the docking bay like a shard of glass slipping into water. Lieutenant Marcus Hale sat rigid in his seat, the soft hum of the engines drowned out by the pulse in his ears. He hated diplomatic assignments. Marines were trained for firefights, not handshakes. But someone had to keep the delegation alive, and on this mission, that someone was him. "Relax, Lieutenant," whispered Ambassador Chin, adjusting her robes as the shuttle's grav locks engaged. "The Dominion invited us as guests, not prisoners." Marcus scanned the shimmering bay beyond the viewport. Thousands of crystalline spires stretched across the vast hollow of the Citadel. Alien guards, insectoid and angular, moved with eerie precision. Their eyes glowed like lanterns in the sterile light. "Guests don't get greeted with rifles," Marcus muttered. The hatch opened. Cold air hissed through the cabin, dry and sharp like glass dust. The delegation stepped out first, Marcus trailing a step behind, hand near his sidearm. He didn't trust any of it, the silence, the symmetry, the way the guards' antennae tracked every motion. They didn't walk far before the trap closed. The crystalline floor rippled underfoot, hardening into restraints that latched around their ankles. Dozens of guards poured in from hidden alcoves, weapons humming. Marcus drew his pistol, but a searing bolt struck it from his hand before he could fire. Another beam cracked into his chest plate, sending him crashing against the wall. "Marcus!" Chin shouted, but the guards seized her arms, silencing her with a hard shove. He staggered to his feet, fists clenched, ready to take as many of them as he could. A blow from behind dropped him to one knee, then another snapped across his jaw. His vision blurred, but through it he saw the delegation dragged away, struggling against their captors. "Not him!" a voice hissed, smooth and sharp as broken glass. From the far end of the chamber, Overseer Xylar Dren entered. His body was an armored exoskeleton of polished black, his height towering over the guards. Mandibles clicked as he approached, for eyes gleaming with detached amusement. "Take the diplomats to their quarters," he ordered, voice echoing through the crystalline walls. His gaze fixed on Marcus. "This one comes with me." Two guards yanked Marcus upright. His legs buckled, but he forced them straight, staring at Xylar with defiance. "Split us up, huh?" Marcus spat blood onto the polished floor. "Cowards!" Xylar tilted his head, studying the human as though examining a new specimen. "You will learn that courage is merely another mask for fear. All species wear it before they break." The guards dragged Marcus through corridors of refracted light, walls shimmering with patterns that shifted like liquid crystal. He caught glimpses of other prisoners, alien forms shackled, trembling, whispering to themselves. Their eyes widened at the sight of him, as though pitying the fate that awaited. They reached a chamber shaped like a glass flower. At its center, a chair of restraint bloomed open, edges sharp as razors. Marcus jerked against the guards, but they slammed him down. Cold bands snapped around his wrists and ankles, sinking into flesh like biting wire. The chair tilted back, lifting him into the blinding light. Xylar circled him slowly. "Human," he said, savoring the word. "So young a species, so fragile. Your bones snap with a twist. Your skin tears with the gentlest blade. Why does your race insist on posturing as warriors?" Marcus clenched his jaw. "Maybe because we don't fold the second someone raises their voice." The Overseer's mandibles twitched, something between a smirk and a snarl. He gestured, and a crystal probe lowered from the ceiling, tipped glowing red. "Your military codes," Xylar said. "Your fleet movements. Your defenses. Speak them, and your suffering will be brief." Marcus stared straight ahead. "And if I don't? Then you will discover the limits of your body." The probe touched his side. Heat lanced through his nerves, white fire searing across his ribs. Marcus arched, breath locked in his throat, but he didn't scream. He ground his teeth until the flare dimmed. Xylar leaned close, studying his face. "One strike, and already your muscles convulse. Weak flesh." Marcus forced a grin, though sweat ran down his temples. "That all you've got?" The Overseer's mandibles froze. For a moment, silence pressed against the chamber. Then Xylar signaled again. The probe dragged across Marcus' arm, slicing heat through tendon and muscle. Pain screamed through his body, demanding voice, but Marcus bit it down until his jaw ached. The guards shifted uneasily. Most prisoners howled at the first touch. This one did not. "You will not endure," Xylar said, as though reassuring himself. "Every creature breaks. Some quickly, some slowly. But they all break." Marcus locked eyes with him. His lips parted just enough to let out a rasp. "Try me." Xylar straightened, mandibles clacking in irritation. "Tomorrow you will beg. Tonight I allow you to dream of mercy." The restraints released. Marcus collapsed forward, caught under the arms of two guards. His body trembled, every nerve ablaze, but his spirit refused to yield. As they dragged him toward the holding cell, Xylar's voice echoed behind him. "Soft flesh always deceives itself. Tomorrow, human, your defiance will end." Marcus didn't look back. He let the pain wash through him, swallowing it, absorbing it. He had one thought, sharp and steady as steel beneath the fire. They don't know what pain means to us. The cell was colder than the chair. Its walls pulsed faintly, alive with crystalline veins that carried pale light. Marcus sat against the floor, his breath steady despite the tremors racing through his muscles. Every nerve screamed, but he held himself upright, back rigid, jaw set. The sting in his ribs hadn't faded, nor the ache in his arm, but pain was a language he already knew too well. He closed his eyes. Memory flickered, mud, gunfire, the battlefield at Hatteras 9. Shrapnel had torn through his thigh, left him crawling under fire for 2 hours until evac arrived. He had survived that. He would survive this. The door split open. 2 guards entered, faceted armor reflecting the dim glow. Behind them came Xylar, mandibles twitching with suppressed impatience. "Awake already?" the Overseer mused. "I expected unconsciousness, perhaps delirium. Instead, I find you waiting." Marcus forced himself to his feet. "Don't flatter yourself. I was just hoping you'd come back. I've got more insults lined up." Xylar's eyes narrowed. He gestured, and the guards seized Marcus, dragging him down the corridor. Prisoners pressed against their cell walls, silent watchers as the human passed. Whispers followed, tones Marcus couldn't understand, but fear translated across species. They entered the chamber again. The crystalline chair gleamed, waiting. Marcus was strapped in with brutal efficiency, limbs bound, spine pinned against the curved surface. Xylar moved to the console. "This time," the Overseer said, "we will test thresholds." The probe was crude. "Now we measure." The ceiling split open. From it descended a halo of instruments, each tipped with needles, wires, and radiant threads of energy. Marcus smirked. "You really went all out with the decor." "Silence," Xylar snapped. "Your body will tell me what your tongue refuses." The first needle sank into his shoulder. Fire pulsed along his nerves, a controlled surge of agony designed to isolate pain receptors. Marcus inhaled sharply but exhaled slow, forcing rhythm into his breath. Numbers danced across alien screens. The guards watched. One muttered in a low click, uneasy. "Again," Xylar ordered. Another strike, this time into his leg. His muscles locked, vision flashing white. He refused to cry out. Sweat beaded across his forehead. "Your heart rate should be collapsing," Xylar observed, fascinated. "Instead, it rises and stabilizes. As though your body adjusts." Marcus opened one eye, voice hoarse but steady. "Ever heard of endurance training? Humans don't just survive pain. We adapt to it." The Overseer ignored him, increasing the current. The wires hummed, a low vibration that grew into a high-pitched whine. Marcus' jaw clenched. His body shook against the restraints, yet no scream escaped. Minutes bled into hours. Patterns shifted, heat, cold, pressure, shocks. Pain became a kaleidoscope, relentless and shifting. Marcus drifted between clarity and haze, but he refused to give Xylar the satisfaction of breaking. Finally, Xylar raised a claw. The machines withdrew, leaving Marcus drenched in sweat, body trembling, chest heaving for air. The Overseer stepped close, lowering his voice to a hiss. "What are you?" Marcus coughed, spat blood onto the floor, and smiled faintly. "Just a man doing his job." The silence that followed was heavier than the torture. Guards exchanged glances. One shifted uneasily, antennae twitching. Xylar straightened, mandibles clicking in frustration. Enough for today. The restraints loosened. Marcus collapsed forward, barely caught by the guards. His vision blurred, but he held on to one truth: he was still in control. They dragged him back through the corridor. Prisoners pressed closer this time, murmurs louder. A reptilian captive hissed words Marcus somehow understood. "Still alive?" Marcus managed a nod. That nod spread whispers down the hall, disbelief echoing cell to cell. Back in his cell, the guards shoved him down. The door sealed. Marcus lay on the floor, every muscle screaming. He rolled onto his back, staring at the pulsing ceiling. Pain roared, but underneath it lay something sharper: resolve. He could endure this as long as needed. Humanity had centuries of survival etched into its bones. And somewhere out there, the fleet was coming. He just had to last until then. The next day, they came again. Xylar wasted no words this time. Marcus was dragged into the chamber, strapped in, the instruments descending without ceremony. The needles pierced deeper, the energy surged hotter, the pressure heavier. Marcus shook, sweat dripping, breath ragged. His mind threatened to shatter under the storm of sensations. "Your threshold is beyond calculation," Xylar muttered, half to himself. "This is impossible. You should be unconscious. You should be broken." Marcus forced a laugh through clenched teeth. "Guess no one told you, humans are stubborn." The Overseer struck him across the face, mandibles flaring in fury. "You will break. All flesh breaks." Marcus tasted blood. He let it drip down his chin, then whispered, "Not today." The words rippled through the chamber. The guards froze. One even stepped back. Xylar's eyes narrowed, rage tempered by something he refused to admit: doubt. The session ended, but Marcus had already won something more important than rest. He had planted a seed of fear. When they returned him to his cell, Marcus leaned against the wall, exhausted but smiling faintly. He whispered to himself, voice barely audible. "They think pain is their weapon. They don't understand, it's ours." The Citadel of glass was never quiet. Its walls hummed faintly with energy, its corridors alive with shifting light. Yet, in the days following Marcus Hale's second session, silence clung to the halls. Guards spoke in clipped whispers. Prisoners pressed against their barriers whenever he was dragged past, their gazes filled with something that had not existed before: hope. Marcus noticed it even in his haze. Every step burned, his muscles still screaming from the needles, but his mind catalogued everything: the way a reptilian prisoner clicked to his cellmate and gestured toward him, the way a guard's grip faltered, antennae twitching nervously. His suffering wasn't just his anymore. It was becoming a story. Xylar stood in his observation chamber, eyes fixed on the recordings. Again and again he replayed the footage, the human strapped to the chair, body convulsing, jaw clenched, no scream escaping. He zoomed in on Marcus' face, the faint smirk bleeding through the agony. "This is distortion," Xylar hissed. His mandibles ground together, irritation seeping into his tone. "The flesh is fragile. The nerves must yield. They always yield." Behind him, his second-in-command shifted uneasily. "Overseer, perhaps." "Silence," Xylar snapped. "I will not be lectured on physiology by a guard." The subordinate lowered his head, but the doubt remained in his eyes. Marcus was dragged in for another round. This time, the chamber was crowded, guards lined the edges, scientists hunched over consoles. Xylar wanted witnesses, wanted proof that humans were no different from any other species. The restraints clamped down. The machines descended. "Begin," Xylar ordered. Energy surged through Marcus' chest, a concentrated burst meant to mimic cardiac failure. His body convulsed, vision blackened. For a heartbeat he thought his heart had stopped. He forced his lungs to drag in air, one ragged breath at a time. Still resisting, a scientist muttered, voice full of disbelief. Increase current, Xylar barked. The pulse struck again. Marcus back arched, a strangled sound escaping his throat. It wasn't a scream, more a growl, defiant and guttural. The guards shifted uncomfortably. Xylar leaned in, voice sharp. Tell me your codes. End this. Marcus spat blood onto the Overseer's claw. You'll have to do better. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Even the scientists exchanged glances. Xylar slammed the console, cutting power. Enough! But it was too late. The human had won again. Words spread faster than Xylar could contain it. Guards whispered in their barracks. The human doesn't feel pain. They say his nerves are broken. Some claim he feeds on it. Prisoners pressed closer to their cell walls when Marcus passed, eyes following him with reverence. One alien, skeletal and weak, rasped through the glass. They cannot break you. Marcus only gave a faint nod, but the gesture traveled like fire through the corridors. Xylar summoned his officers. The room buzzed with tension. He endures because he is trained, Xylar declared, mandibles snapping. This is no mystery, no magic. He is conditioned. Nothing more. But Overseer, one officer ventured. Even the most conditioned warriors fall eventually. This one, he grows stronger. The crew speak of him. They say. I care nothing for what they say. Xylar roared, slamming a claw against the crystalline table. He will break. Tomorrow, I will strip his mind bare myself. The officers lowered their eyes, but unease lingered in the chamber long after they left. That night, Marcus lay in his cell, body shaking from the day's torment. He traced every ache, every burn, cataloging them like old scars. Pain was no stranger, it was a companion. He had carried it from battlefield to battlefield, and now it was his shield. A faint voice reached him. From the cell opposite, a prisoner whispered in halting English, words clearly learned from scraps. Human, still alive? Marcus forced his eyes open, turned his head. Still here. The alien exhaled a rattling breath. They fear you. We hope. Marcus closed his eyes again. Hope was dangerous, but he didn't deny it. The next day, the chamber was more crowded than ever. Guards, scientists, officers, all watching. Xylar wanted a spectacle. The restraints tightened. Instruments lowered. Xylar himself took the controls. You will scream for me, the Overseer promised. You will beg. The machines surged to life. Heat and cold attacked Marcus' body simultaneously, shocks racing through his nerves. He bit down hard, forcing his focus on one thought: don't give him what he wants. Minutes dragged. The chamber filled with the sound of crackling energy, Marcus' ragged breath, and nothing else. No scream. Xylar's eyes narrowed. His mandibles twitched furiously. Say it, he bellowed. Admit your weakness. Marcus lifted his head, blood dripping from his nose, and whispered, We were born in pain. The chamber froze. Guards stared. Scientists stopped recording. The words echoed, heavier than the silence that followed. Xylar slammed a claw down, cutting the current. Rage burned in his voice. Take him away! As Marcus was dragged past the crowd, he caught their eyes, guards who no longer looked at him as prey, prisoners who now looked at him as proof. The rumor had become a legend. Back in his cell, Marcus collapsed to the floor. His body trembled, lungs burning, vision hazy. But even as darkness pulled at him, he smiled faintly. They could torture him, but they couldn't take what mattered. Not his will. Not the story spreading through the Citadel. And he knew stories were more dangerous than any weapon. White heavy check mark. The chamber glowed brighter than before. Energy pulsed through the crystalline walls, casting jagged shadows across the floor. Marcus Hale was strapped once again to the restraint chair, his body a map of burns, bruises, and cuts. He was barely breathing, each inhale shallow, each exhale shaky. Yet his eyes stayed open. That was enough to infuriate Overseer Xylar. Today it ends, Xylar declared, mandibles snapping in harsh rhythm. Dozens of guards and scientists gathered around, summoned to witness what the Overseer swore would be the humans' collapse. You will beg, and you will shatter. Nothing survives this. The restraints locked tighter. Instruments extended, needles tipped with venom, coils humming with electricity, shards radiating cold. It was a symphony of torment. Marcus tilted his head, lips cracking into the faintest smirk. Funny! That's what you said yesterday. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Xylar froze, mandibles twitching. He pressed a claw against the console. The chamber filled with the howl of machinery. Pain roared into Marcus' body. Fire scorched his nerves while ice clawed his bones. Muscles tore against the restraints, lungs burned for air. His body convulsed, eyes rolling back, yet no scream came. He forced his jaw shut, teeth grinding. Blood dripped down his chin, but he held on. Xylar leaned forward, voice low and venomous. Scream, human! Give me the sound of your defeat! Marcus opened his eyes, unfocused but steady. We don't give you that! Gasps echoed through the room. A guard stepped back, antennae quivering. Another muttered in a clicking dialect. He should be dead. Xylar slammed the controls again, rage boiling. The energy surged hotter, heavier, sharper. Marcus jerked violently, chest heaving as if each breath might be his last. But through the blur, he began to laugh. It wasn't loud. It was hoarse, broken, yet unmistakable, laughter. The crowd recoiled. Some guards exchanged fearful glances, hands tightening on their weapons. A scientist whispered, He mocks pain itself. Xylar's mandibles flared wide, fury breaking through composure. Enough! End this charade! He raised his claw to increase the current once more. Before he could strike, alarms shrieked across the Citadel. Red light cascaded through the chamber, drowning out the crystalline glow. The walls shook, vibrations running through the floor. What is this? Xylar snapped. A guard rushed to him. Overseer, ships, unknown signatures, closing fast. Human designs. The Overseer's eyes widened. Impossible. They cannot. The chamber trembled again, harder. A distant boom reverberated through the structure. The Citadel was under siege. Marcus had lolled back, a weak smile tugging at his lips. Guess I lasted long enough. Xylar spun toward him, mandibles rattling in fury. You did this! You knew they would come! Marcus coughed, blood splattering the floor. That's what you never understood. I wasn't fighting to win. I was fighting to buy time. The restraints released as the chamber lost power. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Guards scrambled, unsure whether to restrain the human again or defend the fortress. Marcus slumped forward, barely catching himself on the edge of the chair. His legs trembled but held. For the first time, he was free. The chamber door exploded inward. Smoke billowed, followed by armored figures in black and silver, human marines, rifles raised, visors glowing blue. Lieutenant! One of them shouted, rushing to Marcus' side. He pushed their hands away weakly. Don't worry about me. Get the Overseer. Xylar screeched, claws raised. Kill them all! The Marines opened fire. Beams lanced across the chamber, cutting down guards in bursts of light. Scientists scattered. Prisoners in distant cells roared as explosions shook the Citadel. Marcus staggered forward, locking eyes with Xylar. The Overseer froze, caught between rage and something far worse, fear. You wanted to know what we are. Marcus rasped, voice raw but steady. We're the ones who don't stop. No matter what you do. No matter how much it hurts. Xylar raised a claw, trembling now. You cannot. Marcus cut him off with a whisper that carried louder than any shout. Now you know. A Marine's rifle barked. Xylar collapsed, his exoskeleton shattering against the crystalline floor. Silence swept the chamber, broken only by the crackle of flames and distant echoes of battle. Marcus sagged, knees buckling, but a Marine caught him. We've got you, sir. The fleet's here. The Citadel's falling. Through the haze of pain, Marcus managed a final grin. Then let's finish this. Hours later, the Citadel burned in orbit. Human ships stood victorious, their banners gleaming against the stars. Prisoners were freed, guards disarmed, the Dominion's fortress shattered. Marcus sat aboard a med shuttle, wrapped in bandages, 4 lines running into his arms. He should have been unconscious, but his eyes stayed open, locked on the stars. Ambassador Chen entered, her robes scorched but her posture unbroken. She looked at him, eyes filled with something between pride and sorrow. You held them longer than anyone believed possible. You saved us. Marcus shook his head slowly. I didn't save us. Pain did. Chen frowned. Pain? He met her gaze, voice quiet, certain. It's what we're made of. We carry it, endure it, turn it into strength. They thought it was weakness. Now they know better. Outside the viewport, the shattered citadel spun silently, a monument to arrogance undone. And in the stillness, the galaxy learned a truth it would never forget. Humans were born in pain, and they could never be broken.